Hello friends, it's your boy Jeff, back with another contest entry video. This time, the contest is for Mike, Jam on Vinyls, 270 subscriber contest. And of course, he's well over the 300 mark now, so that's great. And the contest is called Jam on History. And it consists of one question. Well, one question and a bonus question. And it's pretty open-ended, so I deliberately haven't watched very many entries. I've seen several pop up. I watched like one of them, but I didn't really want to get like too swayed by other people's entries. So, and the question is basically to show 5 albums that connect with a certain time, place, or event in history. So when I was trying to think of an answer for this, I came up with a theme of activism in rock. And I have 5 albums here that will kind of illustrate what I'm talking about. And the historical events is what kind of inspired these concerts and albums to be released. Now, if you're thinking of activism in rock, really the first big major artist to do this sort of thing and release an album or a set for it was George Harrison. This was his concert for Bangladesh, and this was also a movie too, I believe. And there's nothing on the back. So this is a 3-record set. You know, it comes in a box, and it comes with a booklet. And this concert was inspired by George's friend Ravi Shankar, who's the famous sitar player. There were millions of people dying in Bangladesh, basically refugees. People were starving, and he asked George if he would do a concert to raise money to help the people in Bangladesh. And of course, George did. And there was, I think there were 2 shows in one day for this. There was an afternoon show and there was an evening show at Madison Square Garden in New York. And of course, George does the majority of the singing and performing. But you also got, Ringo came to help. Famously, Bob Dylan appeared here, and this was like his first live concert appearance, I think, since his motorcycle accident in 1966. So this came out in 1971. So, to have such a long wait, between concert appearances back then, when artists routinely would put out, several albums in a year, it had to feel like an eternity. Nowadays, it takes, rock stars 5 years to wipe their butt, but be that as it may, the music on this is really great, and the cause that it was for was very noble too. So this is my first album, or this is actually a box set showing activism or that type of thing in rock. Not necessarily, when I say activism, I don't mean like political stuff. I just mean like raising money to help those in need. Then, well, I take that back because you have No Nukes as my second one. And this was, these concerts were done, I think they were inspired by the 3 Mile Island disaster. This wasn't, I shouldn't have spoke. I don't prepare anything before I go on camera. It all comes right out of my head. So, this double album set was put out to raise awareness about nuclear power, because in the late 70s, you know, nuclear plants were proliferating. And of course, 3 Mile Island was kind of like the wake up call that, hey, nuclear power may not be the be all end all savior of our energy needs. And of course, it's still part of the mix of energy supply in the US. But back then, there was a lot more fear. There was a lot more worry about, the environment, radiation, people getting sick and dying, of course. But I mean, this was a noble effort too, to try to wake people up, I suppose. And this is a great concert set. Of course, you have Jackson Browne, Crosby, Stills and Nash. Probably the most famous songs off of this album was the Mitch Ryder medley by Bruce Springsteen and the E Street Band. Where he the Devil with a Blue Dress medley. Sorry, that's what it's called. That got played on the radio a lot. And that was actually part of Bruce's set back in 78, 79, because I've got a couple of other concert recordings and that same medley gets played. But yeah, the No Nukes show was done, just to kind of wake people up a little bit and say, hey, gotta be careful with your nuclear power. Concert for the People of Kampuchea. This came out in 1982. And this was done to help the refugees in Cambodia who were recovering from the reign of Pol Pot and the Khmer Rouge in the mid to late 70s. And of course, once again, millions were dying from starvation and were being displaced from their country. Back here. And this concert was done to help raise money to help those refugees. And of course, you can see just from the cover, you've got The Who, Queen, Paul McCartney and Wings, Elvis Costello, The Clash, The Pretenders, all made appearances here. And I got this album as part of a package when I was tracking down the Clash albums a couple of years ago. And this was included because, of course, the Clash appear in these concerts. So there's this is a double album, and the gatefold inside talks all about the plight of the Cambodian refugees trying to escape from the Khmer Rouge. So I honestly have very little memory of this. I remember the concert for Bangladesh and the No Nukes. I have no real memory of this, to be quite honest. I had to do a little bit of reading on it first before I decided to include it in this set of 5. So, but these last two are probably among the most famous, arguably. Of course, I'm talking about Band-Aid. This is the 12-inch single of Do They Know This? It's Christmas. It came out in 1984. And of course, here are all the artists with a key to who's who in the picture. But it's actually a who's who of British rock stars, circa 1984. Inspired by Bob Geldof watching the news one night and seeing the people of Ethiopia dying and starving because, of course, famine had struck that country. And he wanted to do something about it. So he called some of his friends together. He booked a studio. They wrote a song and recorded it quickly and released it. And to this day, it's a perennial Christmas hit. I picked this 12-inch up like 2 or 3 years ago, and every Christmas I spin it just because it's a great song, and certainly for a noble cause. And the following year, USA for Africa came up with We Are the World, This is the 12-inch single of that. Here's the back. And of course, that video was probably even more famous than Band-Aid. I think just about everybody knows this song. This is another great song too. And on the strength of both of these, and there was actually a full-length album, I think, was released by USA for Africa as well. This is just the 12-inch single, We Are the World. But between these two and that album, then of course you had the famous Live Aid concert in 1985 that took place in London and Philadelphia, and raised millions and millions and millions of dollars to help those starving in Ethiopia. And that actually kind of kicked off a brief trend in America. You had Farm Aid right around that same time to help, the American farmers who were going out of business. And you had stuff like Hands Across America. Do you remember Hands Across America? Where everybody was going to stand next to each other and hold hands and make this one long human chain from coast to coast. So that's what I've got for my 5 albums for this contest. I hope it's acceptable for you, Mike. I think all of these, they're not, very happy moments in human history, but at least you had artists coming together to try to help to do something about it. Using their music for the power of good. That's kind of the theme. And the bonus question for this contest is, what is your favorite record in mono, recorded in mono? That one was easy. Don't Turn Me From Your Door by John Lee Hooker. This is a reissue too, and it was reissued in mono. This record jumps out of your speakers. Unlike the Country Blues of John Lee Hooker, which I showed in my last Spin Zone video, this record kicks ass. And even if you turn the volume up just halfway, you're kind of jolted by his voice and his guitar playing. It's amazing. I'd put this right up there with the Muddy Waters album, Folk Singer. That is another fantastic album, but that's not in mono. But this one, and this one can be had on Amazon still, I believe, for like $20 or something like that. I learned about this album from one of my musical gurus, Andrew, over at Tales from the Crate. And I picked a copy up, and boy, I played this lots of times. In fact, I'll probably spin it again now that it's been a while since I've spun it. So, but when I saw that bonus question, this was the first thing that jumped out in my mind. So that's what I'm going with. Don't Turn Me From Your Door by John Lee Hooker. This is classic stuff. It's just a man and his electric guitar, and he nails it. So there you go. Hope that is an acceptable entry for you, Mike. Glad this contest is being successful for you. I'm glad you've crossed the 300 subscriber mark, and I hope it just goes up and up and up for you. Okay, I will put a link down below to the contest video. If you haven't checked out Jam on Vinyl, please do so, and please hit the subscribe button too. All right, 14 minutes. Signing off. It's your boy Jeff. I'll see you again soon. Take care.